theater experience is different because it's a collective experience. You know, you're sitting there as an audience member, you're sitting there in the dark, and all of you become connected as you're watching, this story play out in real time, and the audience, is feeding the performers, and the performers are feeding the actors. And I remember one of the best ways that I can even describe it is I remember when I saw Warhorse in in New York, and it got to the point where I was like holding the hands of the people sitting next to me, and I didn't even know them, but we were so engaged and into it. You don't get that. You certainly don't get that on Zoom, and you certainly don't get that on film. Maybe a bit on film if you're in a theater, but there's kind of a wall there that there's not in theater. And, for the playwright, you're sitting in the audience, listening to the audience, listening to where they get, where they react, listening to, are they dropping out? Are they coughing and dropping their candy or what, whatever. And the actors feed off the audience's energy. So yes, it's a completely different experience. It's a communal artistic experience that you don't find anywhere else, and that we've missed so much. Hi, my name is Wendy Graf, and if you'd like to learn more about my play, Closely Related Keys, at International City Theater, watch this video. I've always known about it, and it's a wonderful theater, and they do wonderful work, and I've seen work that they've done and gone down and seen productions and everything. I never pursued it, but the stage manager of ICT, who had worked on one of the workshops of Closely Related Keys, contacted me and said, why don't you send me the play? I'm going to send it to Karen Desai, who's the artistic director. And I was like, okay, fine, because most, 99 out of 100 are rejections, so I sent it to him, and I forgot about it. And she contacted me, and this was it was supposed to go up last season. And I was so thrilled. It's a big, beautiful theater, and I was thrilled about working there. And I was also thrilled about being able to work out some of the kinks and the problems from the last production. I saved all the reviews, and I worked with people and talked to people. And, whenever there's like a common theme, that a lot of people say, I think, okay, that's something that didn't work. So I rewrote the play again, and then COVID struck, and I was so devastated. We all were so devastated, and that I figured that was that. And then when things started to look like they were improving, Karen contacted me for this season, and she said, how would you feel if we put it up this season? And I said, great, I'm thrilled, I'm so happy. So that's how it happened. And we've been holding our breath all along. Well, I wrote it in 2012. And at first I started out that I was going to do kind of a Miss Saigon, Madame Butterfly thing with an American soldier and a woman in Iraq, and that they kind of, Miss Saigon kind of thing. So I started doing a lot of research and, listening to what people said, et cetera, et cetera. And then I decided, then because of like in Miss Saigon where they have a child, I was going to incorporate that. And then all of a sudden I thought, maybe it's the other daughter's story that she finds out that she has a half sister in Iraq, and they had thought that everyone was dead. But the half sister in Iraq turns up, and she finds out about her. And then I wanted to include, in those years, in 2012, the Middle Easterner was the boogeyman in the United States, right? Osama bin Laden and the terrorists and the people who blew up 9/11, and there was just an unbelievable amount of Islamophobia going on. So I wanted to do it from the audience's perspective, and also the main character's perspective, that she's just using her beliefs and stereotypes to say, oh, this girl's a terrorist. And, so that I wanted the audience to sit in the same place as the main character and test their beliefs and stereotypes. And then I had to give a reason why the other daughter, this daughter, not the Iraqi sister, was so sensitive about this. And I came up with a wonderful reason, but I don't want to tell you what it is because it's going to blow the plot point. The play opens up in 2010, right, before the 10th anniversary of 9/11, before the capture of Osama bin Laden, and it opens up in New York, and we meet Julia, an African-American, very high-powered attorney who, is moving up the career ladder and is very focused on her career. And she's also having kind of a secret relationship with her boss, who's not African-American, who's white. It's an interracial relationship. And everything's great. The world is her oyster. She's just been assigned to this big case that's moving up her career on the ladder. And her father, who she's been estranged from for a very long time, shows up in New York wanting to talk to her. And he says to her, Julia, I have something to tell you. And she said, what? And he says, you have a sister. She's coming to the United States. I'm sponsoring her, and she's a musician, and she has an interview at Juilliard, and she's your family. And she's like, she's not my family. I don't have anything to do with this. So she tells her father, I don't want anything to do with this. This is your deal. And one night, very late at night, the Iraqi sister shows up at her door. And that's how the play starts. What I hope they get out of this production is that it will encourage them to grapple with all their own beliefs and stereotypes and serve as an inspiration to bridge the gap between cultures. Now, something has happened with this play, and that's Afghanistan. And oddly enough, the words in the play about getting out of Iraq are like the exact words that we've been hearing on the TV news all week. So I'm realizing one of the questions this morning was about that. I'm realizing that people are going to see this through a different lens, having, Afghanistan just happening right now as we speak. But I think the overall takeaway, I never want to give answers to the audience. I don't deal in answers. I deal in questions. And what I want them to take away is I want them to question their own stereotypes and beliefs and go across the street and have a glass of wine afterwards and talk about it and see how it applies to their life and what they can do to make the world a better place. Aside from the fact it's an absolutely beautiful production of it, it's so timely now. It's scary. I mean, it mirrors exactly what's going on in Afghanistan right now. And some of the lines out of it are like, when I was listening to the news, I thought, oh my God, that's a line right out of the play. I think, once again, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And so I hope not only are that we doomed to repeat what, going into another country and, doing what we did with Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan. I hope we've learned something from that, but also I hope we've learned something about the divisiveness and the racial and religious and cultural and moral divisiveness. The country is so much more divisive at this time than they were at the original production in 2014. And I think that you can't look at this play now without looking at through the lens of the last 5-7 years that wasn't there. I mean, before we were looking at it, we were looking backwards through the lens of the Bush administration, but now we're looking at it through a completely different lens. And I'll be very curious to see what people think and what people walk away with, if it's any different now than it was then. Because the basic thing is the same. We're so divided. There's such a feeling of the other. And so much more now. I mean, I think more now in my lifetime than ever before. And I just hope that this can bridge the gap a little bit and let people think about things and think about where they're at and think about where the world is at. And is this really the world that we want to leave for our children and our grandchildren? Well, I just hope that everybody in Southern California, in the area, will come and see it. It's a big, beautiful theater. It's observing all kinds of safe protocol for COVID. They're, skipping rows, skipping seats, masked, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's vaccinated. And I think right now, I think especially since last week, when all this has been going on about Afghanistan and people have questions and people have no outlet except for to maybe post on Facebook, wow, this is really wrong, or whatever, that maybe this will help them engage in a dialogue about what they're feeling and help them sort out their feelings about it. Hi, I'm Wendy Graf, and I am the playwright of Closely Related Keys, which opens Friday, August 27th at International City Theater in Long Beach. It is the most beautiful production. I think we're all so happy to return to the theater, and it's an important play, and I think it's more relevant today than ever. It not only mirrors the current situation in Afghanistan, but what's going on in our country today as well. And it reminds us on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, how living in a climate of racial, religious, moral, and political polarization divides us. And we see people as the other and therefore threatening. But every human being experiences love, loss, pain, despite their national ties, their cultural identity. And like Closely Related Keys, we all share common tones. And it's my hope that this new production of Closely Related Keys will encourage us to grapple with our own beliefs and stereotypes and serve as an inspiration and an opportunity to bridge the gap between cultures. See you at the theater.